welcome to Mary Techmas Live Day 2, where we're going to tell you all about one of our favorite topics, podcasting. So we're here not to just tell you about great podcasts to listen to for you or your class, but also how you can get students creating podcasts that they can share with real, authentic audiences. So we're happy to be here.
I'm excited to be here with you, Shannon. Thanks so much for having me alongside of you. And I think the key word today, and you'll get into this in a little bit, is simple. So this is going to be a piece of cake. It'll be about a half an hour long, but I think you'll get some really cool and easy tools to use for just you or in your classroom to create podcasts.
Yeah, and they want to stick around for the whole thing because we have a couple of surprises to drop along the way.
Yep, awesome.
Okay. All right, so just in case you aren't aware of who we are, I'm Shannon Quigley. I'm the Manager of Learning Technology, and alongside me today is
Stephan Armstrong. I'm the Digital Content Coordinator for Fort Wayne Community Schools.
And I think since you normally see Steve on the Rockstar videos, that just means like, bingo bango, I'm the rock star of the day.
You must be a rock star. I need to get you a t-shirt.
All right, get me a t-shirt. All right, so we're ready to get this thing rolling. So let's talk a little bit about podcasts. I don't know about you, Steve, but podcasts have really taken off for me and something that I listen to when I'm driving, when I'm out for a walk with my dog. And I would say 10 years ago, podcasts were not really on my radar.
Right.
This is a new form of media that we as adults are listening to, but it also can be really powerful for students.
Yep.
But before we get started about that, we wanted you to think about maybe how podcasts play a role in your life. So we put two of our favorite podcasts up here. So mine is Crime Junkies, and I don't know if you've ever listened to it, but it's like an addicting podcast because there's so many options to listen to, and it walks you through like an unsolved crime, so you can listen to the story. The only part I don't love is that there's never really a like closing. They truly are unsolved mysteries, so you leave without a solution. But I gave myself coal because that's kind of like a bad choice around the holidays to think about, but that's what keeps me walking.
Your podcasts drive me crazy. Like, why is such a cliffhanger there at the end? I want to know, like, let's find out who did this crime, you know, but they never do. They kind of leave you with a cliffhanger. I was torn here because I listened to a lot of podcasts about video editing and the things that I love to do, but then also once in a while throw in one that's just fun and kind of gets my mind away from work and stuff. So that's why I put The Office Ladies on there. I love the show The Office. I binged it a couple years ago, and we always have one-liners that we're throwing back and forth from that show. And we love Stanley, so Stanley's one of our favorites. So I put down The Office Ladies, and a lot of times in podcasts, you'll get a lot of different information. Sometimes they'll have a show, and I'm like, man, this does not have anything good about The Office that I like, but then they'll throw in something real quick about Dwight or a little tidbit I didn't know about the show, and you're like, wow, it was well worth it. And I had it going while I was driving around town.
Okay, now I haven't listened to that one, and I do love The Office, so maybe I need to start.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so if you have one that you think we should start listening to, that's what your choice is. Leave a message in the chat or the comments or when you fill out your form to say you've watched this of what your favorite podcast is, because we'd like to share some out with the masses of what podcasts are good that we're missing.
The thousands.
Yes. Okay, so let's get started about, it's great that you're listening to them in your car and you're enjoying them, but podcasts are can be a part of our students' life too, and they could be a part of your classroom learning environment. So why, we already have a lot of text going, we already have a lot of books, what do podcasts have to offer you and your students? So a couple things to keep in mind, and I got this graphic actually from a podcast that I listened to, The Cult of Pedagogy. That's one of, like Steve was saying, there's personal podcast and work-related podcast. The Cult of Pedagogy is an education-focused one. If you haven't listened to it, I recommend. But here are some reasons she shared that aligned with other research that I was reading as well. Is that really, we all know listening comprehension is a big part of reading. After students have learned to decode and are fluent readers or even still emerging, the more they hear books being read or talking, vocabulary, they can increase their comprehension skills. So podcasts give you an avenue of high interest topics. You can customize the length and activity, but gets kids listening. And also I saw something that research shows that kids can listen longer than they can watch a video, than they can read. So if you're wanting them to have some of that sustainability over a topic, a podcast might be a great way to do that. So there's some other things on this slide that you'll see, but one thing, like for our secondary students, we were talking about if I want my kids to learn about something for homework, but they have sports practice. A lot of our kids work after school. they don't have time to sit down and write or research, but maybe I could give them a podcast to listen to that we could discuss in class tomorrow, and their homework is really listening. Now they can listen to it on their phone, they can listen to it in their car, they can listen to it while they're doing anything.
That's really. Pretty cool. Yeah.
So podcasts could be that answer for things that you're wanting kids to do at home as well. Okay? So thinking through that, you know the reasons why you might want to, but where does it actually fit? What part of your day could you use it in? So I've got a couple ideas here. The first is Tier 1 whole group instruction. I need my kids to all learn about a certain topic, and I'm going to have them listen to a podcast on that topic so that we all get the same content knowledge. It could be supplementary. So if we're talking a lot about project-based learning or career field experts, there's tons of podcasts out there that you can really focus on one of those people that you want to hear from and let all of your kids listen to it. And again, that's your point of reference. Instead of a book or instead of an article, a podcast can give you that same quality introduction. You could also do some of these in small group. So if you have different inquiry groups going or kids at a station that need to work on listening comprehension, I could put one of these podcasts we're going to talk about out there for them to listen to. And then a couple just other quick. They fit nicely on choice boards. If you have early finishers, they can listen to a podcast and begin creating specialized assignments. And really, the beauty is that the genres of podcasts out there for kids is very vast, that you can really fit something that if you have students that have high interest in something, you can find something that matches for them. Okay. So we're going to start with some little gifts. So if you are like, I would love my kids to create a podcast, but honestly, some of our kids may have heard the word podcast, but they've never listened to one before.
Right.
So we can't ask them to create something that they don't have any background knowledge or schema about. So what can we do to help front load them? So I'm going to give you 5 podcasts that I recommend that you could use in your classroom, and then for all different levels. So it doesn't matter. There's something for everyone here today. So the first one I would say is for our elementary students. And really this could go down from pre-K, because my pre-K student enjoys listening to them all the way to 5th grade. So what Story Pirates does is it has a storyline of these pirates who took over a ship, and they're kind of funny characters. But in between their storyline that's written by the podcast creators, they have student authentic writing that they take and they turn it into a story or a song that's narrated by professional actors. So it's super high quality, and you know, these are written by kids, so the stories are kind of bananas, but the kids love them. And you'll find that on their website, they have these episode activities. So if you want to do a certain episode, you can, and then it has some different things that they can think about. But what I've found is that when you use this with students, it makes them want to be creative writers, because any of your kids in your class can submit their stories to Story Pirates and have the opportunity to be featured on their show. And they have some really high, I don't want to say ranking, that's not the word, well-known actors that do them. So I know that like Kirsten Bell and Dax Shepard have been on them. Tons of Hollywood stars.
And I don't know who Dak Shepard is.
Still don't.
I only know Dak Prescott, so no,
okay.
I still don't.
And I don't know who that is, so we'll trade stories later.
There we go, we will,
okay.
Yes.
So that's a great one for elementary. Great for a station, too. This one is for our middle school students. It's called 6 Minutes, and it's really, truly a 6-minute podcast. So each episode is 6 minutes, and it starts on this storyline that a girl who kind of comes out of like a coma state, and she's around these people, and she's not sure if they're her family or somehow she's been weaponized as a person. But it's a mystery, it's suspenseful, it gives kids opportunities to do some metacognition around characters. They have to be listening carefully to try to solve these problems. And what's nice about this is that it comes with this companion slide deck, this listening guide. So if you're working in your classroom, like you could say when you're done working on X, or every day, the last 10 minutes of class, we're going to listen to a 6 minutes podcast, and you're going to fill in, you know, information about the characters, clues, big ideas. We're going to meet in a small group and talk about these. So it's really just a take and go type activity. But outside of this podcast, if you go to this GZM classroom that I have linked at the top, you're going to find a ton of podcasts that they put out, and all of them have these classroom resources that go along with them. And they are, you know, they've got the seal from Common Sense Media. So these are good ones to use in your classroom with our middle grade students. Okay. This one I really find is applicable for all, and it's called But Why. I would say middle and elementary the topics might relate a little bit more, but really it is answering the question of like, random questions that kid asks. So like, where did emojis ever come from? Or why do pandas have, or black and white? Like just random questions that curious kids might ask. And they listen and experts tell them the answers in an engaging way. So I love to pair this one with like inquiry sheet. So if it's at a station, you pick you put about why podcast out for the week. They have to listen. They take the notes on there. And then you could also have them turn their notes into a infographic, or turn their notes into a little video about what they learned. So it gives kind of that connection between an accountability piece, but also listening comprehension, vocabulary, fluency. All of those things play into this one.
Very cool. And I was going to ask, why did you put this into the podcast? But now I know, right?
Oh, see, I answered that before.
Yes, you did.
I needed to. Okay. So we'll keep going here. This one is another good one for students, maybe history teachers, language arts teachers, the past and the curious. And it's really a history podcast of like lesser known facts, or kind of just history topics that are presented in an interesting way. So if you have a tough time with, the history book in my educational experience was not always my favorite time, because it was kind of presented in like, I don't know, old school ways. Now I'm sure everyone out there is doing a better job, but if history is one area that you're like, I need to do better about how I engage my kids in this concept, like have them listen to some of these podcasts, and then maybe they're making their own podcast in the style of the past and the curious.
Yeah, and you talked about podcasts being narrated by famous people or authors or stuff. I really feel like this is a way for learning to come alive in a way, rather than just read a book. For me, reading a book, it'd be like, man, that's boring. But to listen to this and to hear it more in detail, I think is a good way to do that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because when people are always like, well, I have to follow the standards. The standard says right. And if the standard says right, the kids have to write.
Right.
Like, we get that. Mm-hmm. But why can't they be writing a script for their podcast?
Yeah.
Like, now I know I have to have them do the writing, but now it has an authentic purpose for why. And you might get more engagement out of kids if they know, like, now I get to turn into a podcast, or now I get to make a video. Think about the product that comes from not only writing.
Yeah. And one thing that I think about this too is my daughter, she's 19, she can listen to music and stuff while she's working and stuff. Nice. And so listening to that audio and stuff, I can't do that as much. I got to kind of concentrate on one, but I'm old. But anyway, they learn differently. So this might be a great way to connect with them in a medium that they like.
Love that. Okay, the last one, this is one I just recently discovered, but I thought it was a great connection for our high schoolers. We're working with 3DE and all of these outside companies through a portrait of a graduate. Our schools of success are coming. And this podcast really hits home with how I built this. So all of the companies and things that we see out there when kids are driving by didn't just pop up. These really go into like the founding and the struggles and the places that people came from that are running these high corporations, or even just meaningful small businesses, but really takes them through like the process of how they built things. So super engaging. You can find one on a topic or something that appeals to the students in your classroom. Like, have them pick one. Mm-hmm. Pick a company you're interested in, listen to their podcast, do some research, present to the class on what this is. So that ninth grade career exploration that's coming, I feel like this would be such a natural fit for that.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me, I love candy, and so, but to wonder how the certain candy is made and stuff, it's like, okay, well, I could find out in a podcast. There's also a show, How It's Made, that I love on TV, and they went through on how these candies are made, the different colors are put together, and then how they're wrapped. So be able to get that from a podcast and have a better understanding of it rather than just reading about it, I think would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love that connection, because kids might have seen shows like that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now they have the audio version.
Yep. It's bringing that learning to life.
Yep. And you kind of mentioned something about reading. Not all of our kids are avid readers. Maybe we're not all avid readers. We know research says reading is the best way to increase your cognitive abilities, but audio books and listening comprehension have better outcomes too. So this gives them that chance. If they're not going to pick up a book and read about candy, they might get the same comprehension skills that they would get without the text.
And you and I are totally different in this, right?
Yeah.
Like, you read a lot of books. I don't read any books. But to be fair, I read a lot of articles, things online, so I am reading.
Yeah.
It's different for everybody.
Yep. And so this is just a bonus, because I have not gone through all of these 50 best podcasts for kids, but I was scanning through the high school ones and the middle school ones, and they look like they really had some good content out there that you could gain. Like I saw one about if you're an art teacher listening, they had ones on like different artists that you could feature, and one about music. So there was one for like every content area. So if you want to try podcasting in your classroom or get kids listening to them, do this. Hey, this popped in my brain. This would be great for e-learning day too. Should we ever have one?
Oh yeah.
Listen to a podcast.
Yeah, that's
all
pretty
kids
cool.
can do that on their technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I give you an applause real quick?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
What if I give myself this?
Oh yeah, drop the mic. There you go. Yeah.
So we've got, look at this. Yep. So if you are thinking about this, so that side of the presentation was kind of getting kids prepared for what we ultimately want them to do is create their own podcast. And it does not have to be a hard task for them to do. So Steve mentioned at the beginning, this is something that we call, just keep it as simple as you can for podcasts, because what are podcasts? They're conversations around a topic. There's not images necessarily. Now today we've got some images. This is not a true podcast because it's a video.
Mm-hmm.
But we can have kids presenting on topics like this from elementary to high school. And just maybe what they do in those podcasts and tools and resources could vary. But we have a tool at our disposal, Canva, that can do this for you. So here's what we've kind of...
Wait, Shannon, I thought Canva was just for creating graphics.
You know what? In some people, it can be.
Okay.
But Canva is kind of... You hear us talking about it a lot because it kind of does everything we need it to do for multimedia, from digital, video, podcasting, presentations, creation. So if you're going to teach your kids one tool, to me, this would be it.
Yep.
And 2 years ago, I probably would have said Google Slides.
Yep.
I don't say that anymore. I'm like, get Canva because it has all the images you need that are copyright free.
Yep.
It just does everything that you want kids to do. It's a little bit of a safer environment, I feel like, too, than
especially for us.
sending them to the wild web. So when you think about a podcast, you want to give kids some framework or guidance around what they're going to complete. So you're going to keep in mind that most of their kids are not going to listen to a podcast made by their friends that's longer than 4 or 5 minutes. So start out small with what you want them to do. So as I said, like I would give kids a research topic. Maybe, so in our Techmas, if you're a 4th grade student, we have a December Peeps podcast. So we're asking students to create a podcast about people born in December. Now, if you are not 4th grade and you're like, I still want to try it, you don't have to follow the rules. Go on any of our Techmas activities and try it out. Because what I've done is I've linked all of the articles are in Pebble Go. Kids can research, but I've given them specific things I want them to report on. So they have to come up with the 5 topics. And then they only get 1 minute to talk about each of those in their podcast, so the whole thing is not longer than 5 minutes. And what they're going to do is once they've written out a script, taken their notes, they're ready to create, they go to Canva. A template is linked like this, and really as the teacher, all I had to do was create this blank template. And you can see on my slides, I just laid out the title for all of them of what they can put in their podcast, and it's done. They cannot have more than 6 slides. And each slide can only have 1 image and 1 color background, a solid color background. I like to tell kids to keep it as simple as possible because I don't want them spending their time, like Steve said, creating a digital thing for something that's truly audio. This is just the easiest vehicle for them to create a podcasting that we have right now.
And I said in the beginning, simple, and you just had it on your slide. I know we have principals in the district who create podcasts for their schools. We have teachers already doing this. You don't have to get to that expert level, the crime junkies and what we showed you already. That takes some time. So just keep it safe. These simple slides Shannon's going over, I think, are key to get you going successfully.
You know, if you have the question out there, why aren't you just having them post to different true podcasting platforms? The reason is they don't all follow educational privacy laws, and so we can't really have kids out there right now just posting podcasts wherever we want. So this allows us to have that controlled environment for podcasting. So when kids get their script, they're ready to create, they just create like I said, 1 image. So the one exception I'll say is their title. If they want to make a jazzy, like little image that goes along with their podcast, they can. And then the other ones are simple. And they can just use the elements over here to create. But once they're ready to record, it sounds a little backwards, but you're going to go to this Uploads tab. Am I in the way of my screen there? The Uploads tab has a record yourself option. And when a student clicks on record yourself, it opens up their slide here, and you can say, I just want my screen. I don't need my student in there. Actually, I'm going to cancel that. I'll just turn my camera. Okay. So I'm going to get here, and when I have my podcast title up, all they have to do is hit record, and it's going to start recording my voice, and whatever slide is kind of large is the one. So I could say, like, welcome to the December Peeps podcast. My name is Shannon Quigley, and I'm going to be your host today. Now, when my kids transition, all they have to do is click on the next slide, and you can see it starts their timer over, so they could start talking through what they want to be included on their introduction to whatever their person is. They keep clicking through all of these different slides, and if at any time they need to stop and pause, they can just go back and resume. So if you want to record a slide, get your thoughts together, practice with your partner, you can do that.
But if you went through them all, you don't have to hit stop and record every single time.
No.
Right? You can just keep going and keep the audio going. That saves you editing later.
True. Yep, you can keep going. So once you click done, it's going to exit. You can just save and exit it. It's going to upload these little video files to each slide. But what's nice is when I put it in presentation mode, or my kids send me the file as a view-only link, it's going to run like just a sound. It doesn't have to stop and hit play. It's going to run as if I have a video going. So I can listen to it there. And we'll show you an example here in a second. So you can see here, last year we had a May challenge for students. So these students did it on animals, and you can see if I click on it, let's see if I can get it bigger here. Here's their recording. I can click through, and it's going to read it automatically to me what they said on each slide. It's probably hard to hear right now because I have my volume off, but you can see the images that are simple. They did make a little commercial that went along with it, and then they just kind of moved through, and then when they're done, they have their creation. So it's super simple to do, but the kids really love it. They get to hear it, they get to share it with each other, and get that podcast. Now, Steve, we said simple.
We did say simple.
But I think that's evidence that we enjoy extra things in life.
Yes, we do.
That sometimes people like extra.
Yes, they do.
And so if you are an extra teacher out there and you're like, I'm ready to take this to the next level, what could you have to offer them?
Yes,
Steve?
but keeping it simple, right?
Keeping it simple.
Okay, so we have a system here, and you can kind of see it right here on our little desk here, but I'll pull up a closer shot of it so you can see. This is what we call the Roadcaster, and this is a whole podcasting studio all in this little box. And several of our schools have already gotten some of these. We have one here that I use as a demo, but that I also loan out to my schools as well. So if you're one of those schools and you're like, hey, I want to do this, especially in my middle and high schools, or if elementary schools want to do it, they can borrow this from us and use it. It's a great way to kind of end those projects, and it gives them the feel of being kind of a DJ and a mixer. But what's really cool is it's super simple. So on the back here, you just kind of have 4 microphone inputs, and you see Shannon and I's microphones are plugged into there. You can do more advanced things, where over here in the sides you have these sound effects that are already built in. So I'll kind of go with one with a drum roll here. If we wanted to kind of change things up a little bit and talk about that applause that I did for Shannon earlier because she did such a great job, all those sound effects are built in there. I started off our show today with that music bed, so you heard music in the front of it. You can add the music in it to start playing as well. So the kids have a lot of fun with that. There's really only about 10 buttons on this thing. These are the controls for the headphones to see how loud it is. So it really gives the kids an easy tool to use for creating a podcast. And then all you do is there's a record button here. There's no settings to set up. You just press record. It starts recording the podcast there. And then you click record again, and it kind of stops. So it's a pretty cool tool we can check out. We have 4 microphones here, headphones, so the kids can get in a small group and kind of finish up their podcast and what they're doing. One of the things I love, too, is it's got a USB-C connector in it. So you can kind of just start playing music from
Mr.
your phone
Grinch.
or from your laptop or wherever.
You really
it gives you a lot of flexibility to add things.
You're as
I know one
cuddly
of our
as a
schools has a lot of
cactus. You're as
instruments that
charming as an
the kids
eel.
use during their learning, and so you can plug an instrument into this and record your music along singing with it. So you can do 100 different things, but we really wanted to concentrate on a tool that is simple for our schools to check out and run with. And what's funny is I've given this out to a couple middle schools and a high school, and I went out there, Shannon, to say, hey, let me show you how to do everything. And the kids are like, in all of those schools, they're like, we already got this figured out. It's a piece of cake. So we got some training videos for our elementary students if they want to watch the video coming up to learn how to do it. But it's really easy. So I think it's a cool tool to add more effects and stuff than Canva can do for us.
Yeah, I love it, and I do think I agree with you. Looking at it, if you can't see clearly, like, it's super user friendly with the green and red, like go and stop. Like, you have not trained me on this, but I feel like I could figure it out pretty quickly here by just playing around with some of the buttons.
And you really did that on your highlight video you created yesterday. I thought that was cool, hitting the beats and everything. It's that simple.
So, and so if you want to have a culminating project where you get this equipment and you don't have it in your building, just email Steve or myself, and we're happy to get that up. We'll come out and bring it to you the first time and kind of give you a quick run through if that makes you feel more comfortable to get it going for you.
Yeah, and this one's always fun, I think, is the large robot here. I think that kind of changes the way we talk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different sound effects in there.
So if you don't want a podcast all in robot voice,
there you go.
Give some warnings for your kids on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
So the last thing we want to just kind of cover with you is like, okay, great, my kids created a podcast, but how do they actually get it to me? If you were creating in Canva, it's all about that share link. So if they click on share after they've recorded, there's a one that says like public view only link. That's the one you want them to grab and copy. And you can have them share it whichever way you have kids share links with you. So Google Forms is a great way. Some people just set up like a Google form that's recurring. That's like anytime you have a link to drop to me, just put it in here and send it. And you've got all of your links then in a spreadsheet. Some people set up Canva as like a group with all of their students. And you can have kids, again, turn things in that way so you always have access to it, or a Canva whiteboard. And then you can also use Schoology. So if you're comfortable with using Schoology assignments, you just create an assignment, and then kids, when they turn in their assignment, they paste their link in there, and then just like Google Forms, you have access to all of their links in one spot. So that's great too, because you could give kids if you wanted kids to listen to each other, you could share out that spreadsheet link, again, with a view only, and kids could click through and hear their friends' podcast, which, again, authentic audience is super powerful for students. Okay, well, stop.
We're done.
That's it. That's
Stop
all
recording. We're done.
The
stream is over.
Yep, I'll do the mic drop again for us. And I saw on Canva somewhere that if you do J right now, it gives jingle bells, but it's not working for me, so I'll just blur myself out.
That costs extra.
That costs extra right now. But I said it's all about the link, but that's not true for you, is it?
No, it's not. I always have a few giveaways we want to give away, and so in our elementary session earlier today, we drew one of the names out of the chat. So if you've got any questions, middle and high schoolers, as you're watching this, drop a question down in the chat, and I'll randomly draw a name from there. But you're going to win one of these wooden tokens, and what's really cool about one of these wooden tokens, we have more of them coming up through Mary Techmas.
Yep.
But these are for a free dozen donuts at Jack's Donuts. Jack's is one of our favorite donut shops there in town. We're so thankful for their investment in public education. So I'm going to pick a name out of the chat and give one of these dozen donuts to one of the lucky member in there. So enjoy those.
Can I win if I put some in the chat?
You know what? Sarah would say you can't win, but I say you can win. Put something in there, you will definitely win.
And then I've got a little bonus challenge for you too, is that I shared some of my favorite podcasts out there, but if you have a podcast that you've used with students, or you've had students create podcasts, we'd love to hear the tips and tricks or resources that you have. So if you share one of those with us, either in your Google Form exit slip or in the chat, we'll be picking a winner at the end of the week, maybe, for that. Give people some time to listen.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yep.
All right. So,
and we'll give them some popcorn, right?
Yep.
Yep, on them. Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Is that everything?
That's it.
We're done. There goes the confetti. That's good.
Okay, well, thank you guys, and have a great Techmas.
Enjoy Merry Techmas. Thanks for joining us.